All right, so my name is Rachel Grace Cleveland, and I am studying fashion merchandising. All about me, I'm 17. I am a member of the National Charity League. I'm a 4-year member of the Stars dance team. I am the youth council president for my church, Grace Avenue United Methodist Church. I'm a spokesmodel for Kim Ortiz Photography, and right there in the bottom, that's my sister Riley. And then up at the top, that's my dog Sadie. She hates me, but that's okay. I plan on studying at Oklahoma State University, and they have a really good program there where you can do like annual trips to New York, and then at the end you get to go to Paris, and so that's really cool. And so what got me interested in fashion is I was just raised around it all the time. My dad did retail for a long time, and my mom, she's done it all her life. She does bedding now, but she did clothes and anything you can imagine, so it's just always been a part of my life and something that I've always been surrounded by. And I just love it. It's a way that you get to express yourself, and you get to be creative with it. And you also don't get to like sit in one place. Fashion is always changing, and I get bored easily, so perfect. My quote is, "The things that we love tell us what we are," by Thomas Aquinas. And I like that quote because I'm a firm believer in that you shouldn't do something just because you get a lot of money or lots of people are doing it. I think that you should do something that you love, because I think that would make your life way more enjoyable. My mission statement is, my goal for my ISM experience is to gain connections and wisdom in every aspect of my field with the help of a mentor. I hope to discover more of myself, as well as expand my knowledge in the world of fashion merchandising by observing fashion buyers in their professional environment. By the end of my ISM experience, I hope to know where to turn in college and beyond to be able to pursue my dreams. So my first interview was with Mrs. Gerald Wiley. Her name is Gerald, but she goes by Jerry. Everyone calls her Jerry. And the first thing we talked about is how stores show you what they value. So we got to walk around the mall, and we went into H&M and Aeropostale. Those were the two big ones that we walked in. And she showed me that as soon as you walk in to somewhere like Abercrombie or Aeropostale or something, they have all their new products up at the front, and so they really value their quality. And she was super cool. She was walking around like feeling everything, and she knew exactly what was in like a shirt or a sweatshirt or something just by touching it. She was just walking around touching everything, and I was in awe the whole time. And then we walked into H&M, and they're completely different. If you walk into H&M, you never notice it until someone says it, but they have all their prices everywhere in like huge letters. And so they don't value their quality. They value that you can get it for really, really cheap. And that's what's good about H&M. And so that's like plastered everywhere. And so you can see that. And she showed me how you can spot those things. We talked about all the aspects of a fashion merchandiser that you need. So it's crazy competitive to go into this industry because everything's so innovative and everything's changing and everyone's doing different things, that if you don't just get in there, you're going to get ran over. And so that's something that is super, super, super important. All of the interviews that I went to, every single person said something along those lines, that you have to be creative, innovative, competitive, outspoken, all of those things. That's just something that you can't get around. My next interview was with Mr. Josh Olks. He's a buyer at JCPenney. And his big thing, he was funny, he talked about make people like you, because even though you're selling a product, you're also kind of, in a way, selling yourself. And let me explain that, because that sounds really bad. But if people don't like you, they're not going to like your products. And that's just something, it kind of stinks, but that's something that you can't get around to. Because if you're rude to people or you don't care about people, then that's just going to come right back at you, and they don't care about you, and they don't want to buy your products. Or with people you work with, they don't want to work with you and make things happen for you. So it's a big deal to present yourself in a nice way. He also talked about don't be afraid to make mistakes, because it's just something that's going to happen. You're going to have to make mistakes, but if you get like down in the dumps about it, then you can't come back from that, and you just have to keep going, because things like that are going to happen. Relationships with people is everything, kind of going back to the make people like you. It's just relationships with people, like wherever you go, that's just going to be a big deal. Relationships with people is just something that you're going to have to do in everything. And then we also talked about that buying is not what you think it is. The way my head kind of worked going into it is just buying is just going out and looking at catalogs and buying all the things you want to put in your store. But that's actually not a big part of it. I mean, that is a part of it, but a lot of it is working with numbers and budgeting and what kind of budget you have to work with and how much can you spend and is it worth it to spend that much and all of that. So a lot of it is just working with numbers, and it's not just going around and buying things. And so that was a huge shift for me because that wasn't what I thought it was. And so that was something I was left thinking about after the interview. My next interview was with Miss Karen Jones, and she taught me that you can learn the most from entry-level jobs. You go into jobs thinking that you just want this specific job and you don't care about anything else until you get to that job, but that's really not the way you should go into it looking at it, because she told me that her entry-level jobs, she learned the most because you get to see everyone and what everyone's doing and all the different kinds of things, and so stuff like that you're going to learn the most from. Body language is key. This is just like a professional thing that if you're come off like closed off and meh, you know, that's not very appealing, and so people aren't going to like you, and then again, make people like you. You have to think outside the box. So like I said, everyone said something like that, where you have to be competitive and tell people what you're thinking and get creative and think outside the box, because that's just something that you have to do. My interview with Miss Mindy Steele, you won't be stuck in one place. She told me that she came out of college with a degree in accounting, and now she's a fashion buyer at JCPenney. And so, like I said, you're not stuck in one place, and don't get all bummed out if you're not in the position that you want to be, because you're constantly moving around. Going back to my interview with Mr. Olks, he has been working at JCPenney for 3 years, and he's held like 5 different positions because you just move around so much. And so she told me that be confident in yourself, kind of going off of the don't be afraid to make mistakes. If you're not confident, then people will just skip right over you and they won't think anything of you. And then also no computers. A lot of you're going out and talking to people and buying products and all of that, but you're also sitting on a computer and doing budgeting and reports and all of that. And she was telling me that she didn't even think anything of knowing computers when she went to this job, and then it was a huge wake-up call when she had to sit behind a computer a lot and she didn't know what she was doing, so that was a big deal for her. Then my last interview was with Mr. Jose Conforme. He taught me you only care about the customer, and so that being said, kind of like you only care about the customer, meaning that everything you do has to be related back to the customer. So like every decision that you make, it has to be a decision that the customer is going to like, or else your product won't sell, and that just spirals down. Don't get your feelings hurt easily. There's a lot of people in this business that are very like snippy, and you know, they just go. And so don't get your feelings hurt easily is a huge deal. Also going back to being confident in yourself. And then he also talked about don't get attached to products, because the business is always changing, and he was telling me that he'll work on a project for months and then the boss is like, we don't want it anymore, it's not going to work, and you just have to throw all that away, all the work that you just did, and have to start over something. So don't get attached is a big deal. Research on fashion merchandising. So through all the interviews and all of the articles that I read, everything that I pieced together, these are kind of the things I got. So in fashion merchandising, you're in charge of basically everything: the buying, the budgeting, how it's displayed in the store, and how it comes off to customers, and then also the promoting, like advertising, all of that, how people perceive it. Merchandising applies to the School of Human Sciences. So I didn't know that when I went in. I thought automatically I was just going to apply to wherever I go, the School of Business, but merchandising is actually human sciences. And so like I had no idea. That was over my head, so that was a big deal that I needed to know. Sell yourself, make people like you. You know, you have to come off, and you also kind of have to tailor yourself to different people, because there's a lot of different people, and you can't just, you know. Okay, your attitude. You always have to have a positive attitude, because, you know, there's a lot of people that are you're going to have to work with a lot of different people in fashion merchandising, like a lot of different people. And so attitude is a huge deal, always being positive. And then finally, my mentor, Miss Jerry, she was my favorite person by far. She's so cool. I loved her. Like, she was the first person I interviewed, and she was always in my head because I loved her so much. So she started and owns her own business called Extreme Linen, and she runs that out of her house by herself. So she's pretty cool. She started at Dillard selling ties, like in the tie section. And so this was the summer before she went to college. She just started working at Dillard selling ties just to make money. And I forget what she was going to school for. I think she wanted to be a dentist. And her boss, he was like, you can't be a dentist. You're too good at this. Like, you just can't throw away that talent. And so he took her under his wing and started teaching her all the different aspects. And now she's a genius. Like, I think she's actually the smartest person I've ever met in my entire life. Like, she's so cool. She just talks all the time about everything. She knows everything about everything. Like, I'm not kidding. She's so cool. And then so she holds every single aspect, every person I talked to about and everything they said, she's all of it. Like, she is like the picture perfect fashion merchandiser. It was funny because everyone talks about how you have to be competitive. And I was talking to her on Monday about my final presentation and everything like that. And she was like, I'm trying to think of how I need to make your presentation the best because we have to win. I was like, whoa. So she's really competitive. She's super cool. And so that is everything I've done so far. I'm working on my original work for my virtual store, all the consumer behavior research and all of that. And I will continue to meet with my mentor, Miss Jerry, and work on stuff like that. Done.